Jim just left.
Hello and welcome to the Shippensburg Area School District Committee of the Whole meeting. We have a few topics on the agenda this evening, and we are going to kick it off with our junior ROTC student that's enrolled, cadet. So, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Todd Wagner, and I'm a JRTC. Pretty cool. So the daily life of a cadet in JRTC, it really depends on what day it is. So on Mondays, we go in and we talk about what we're doing the week, and then we go to Master Sergeant's classroom and we learn about our uniforms and some of the history of the Navy. Tuesdays is our PT day, and it usually contains of starting off with our stretches, and then we go to our daily sevens, which is like a quick exercise to warm us up, and then we do really any exercise that Master Sergeant or Commander tells us to do. And then that's how Tuesdays go, and then Wednesdays is our uniform day. This is our uniforms right here that we wear every single Wednesday. And so we have certain regulations that we have to go through, and we get inspections, yes. We get inspected by our Master Sergeant with the regulations and all that stuff, and we get asked questions from what we learn from the classes that we have. And then Thursdays, we usually do like drill. Is when we learn all of our drill for like the right phase, left phase, and all that fun stuff. And so we also, that's another day that we learn about stuff in the classroom. And then Fridays we do my apologies. Like another classroom day, basically, is what it is. We talk about so we can do community service throughout JRTC. We do community service for a lot of the surrounding areas. So we go do diaper depot. We go and do like a fun run sometimes. We help out we help out a lot of places. So also we did like the retirement home in Shippensburg. We did that place, and we helped out like decorate for Christmas one time. We did that for a few different places as well. So what my favorite thing to do in JRTC is going to be PT. PT really, really helps me out with learning who I am, to be one. Like it one of the PTs that we had, we ran like 2 miles or so, and I was falling behind, and it really motivated me to work on myself and figure out what I need to do to join the military. But JRTC is not only just for military. You also get to go in there and you get to learn about leadership, helping out people, also the military, of course, and just learning who you are in general. And it really helps out with building your confidence and figuring out that you're goodness, my apologies.
Take your time.
I'm very stressed out.
Stop and give us time.
We're just gonna go somewhere else. So, my least favorite thing in JRTC, I will say, is inspections, because it's you got to be perfect. You got to be perfect. Don't get me wrong. They also give you some lenience if, like, you just can't remember one of the questions, because they give us so many opportunities to figure out the questions. But another thing with JRTC, you get opportunity to go out, and we have like a drone program. We have marksmen, a running team, like a essay team. I guess I'm not fully sure what that's called, but an essay team. We get to go out and do competitions against people. We have drill teams and a bunch of fun stuff. It's not all strict. You also out of JROTC, and you go out and do all the community service, all the extra programs. It's actually really, really fun, super fun. Drill meets are really fun as well. I've been to one myself, and we got to hang out with a bunch of people from other platoons, from like different classes. It's really fun to be there, and you get to hang out, meet new people. You get to sometimes get to meet other schools as well. Make new friends. And so, for the most part, JROTC is probably one of the greatest experiences I've had in school ever. Compared to most things I've been to, like, it, no doubt about it, it's one of the best things that could have happened to me, because it helps me out with figuring out who I am, helping me out on getting ready for the military, because I'm planning on going into the Navy. My brother actually just graduated from boot camp like a month ago or so. Really cool. I got to experience down at South Carolina, but and so JROTC is altogether just a great program for mainly everybody to go into, not just for military purposes. It's, as I said, you can build your leadership, build confidence. Don't get me wrong. When I first started wearing this, I was scared people were going to make fun of me. But I'd learned that people also look up to me at the same time, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of confidence to be able to wear these uniforms. But you also got to wear these uniforms with pride, because you're also representing the JROTC and just who we are as a program. It's a really fun experience. And so...
Are there any questions for Todd?
Oh, yes. Any questions?
What grade are you? Junior, senior?
I'm a sophomore, sir.
Sophomore. So you'll be in through two or three more years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it what you say is the greatest experience you ever had?
Yes, sir.
Do you do any bivouacking?
Repeat that, please.
Do you do any bivouacking?
Bitwhacking?
Bivouacking. Sleeping on the ground.
Oh, sleeping on the ground. Oh. No.
I know the Navy never goes to the ground.
Hey, come on.
I was in the Army and the Air Force, National Guard, and I retired, so I know that. But it's a good career, educational-wise and everything like that. He's the only one we have? I thought we had two.
Yep.
I thought we hope to add two.
Well, it's a program that's a little tough.
Yeah.
And so, our other cadet made a choice.
Okay, I had no problem with that. Yeah, I like the statement you made about the uniform. Like I said, I retired between. Nothing made me prouder than being in a uniform.
Well, thank you for your service.
And then thank you for trying and competing and wanting to be something.
Yes, sir.
So what job in the Navy do you kind of have your eyes set upon?
So I currently have my eyes to become a CB, which a CB is like the trades, like plumbers, HVAC, electricians, all those guys. But for the Navy, they would go out to the fields and build stuff for the soldiers to be in. That's what I'm currently looking at. But at the same time, I was originally looking at becoming a pilot in the Navy for like the Blue Angels or something like that. And it just learning the history of the Navy from JROTC really helps out on picking what I really want to be, because I still have another 2 years to figure out what I want to be. So finding the history of Navy it helps out a lot, because you got to learn about all the jobs in there. You got to learn the benefits of being in the Navy and all that stuff. And also, but I will say my master sergeant, he is in the Marines, So he does pushes some people to go into the Marines.
They are the Navy's big brother.
Yes, they very much are. I will say they're better. They are better. I will agree with that.
Well, I just want to say that I'm thankful for this program. I'm thankful, that you're here and that you're engaged. Definitely being the wife of a Marine, the leadership skills, the identity, the obedience, and the pride is something that, the armed forces will definitely teach you, and great attributes just to be a better human and to serve your community. So I definitely appreciate you being here and for sharing your experience. And I would hope that you would continue to recruit some of your fellow classmates in this program, because I think we could all, benefit from some of those attributes that you're learning.
You travel to Shippensburg every day,
Yes.
one class, or the whole afternoon, or how you do it?
So what it usually ends up being is like a class and a half. So I get there around 8-ish, a little before 8, and then I leave. I believe it's like I get back at this school around 9:20. So it's about only an hour long, but it really makes up for being the hour long. It helps out a lot with figuring out everything.
You drive every day, or do we provide transportation?
The transportation.
We provide the transportation every day.
Yes.
Okay.
So Todd, do you you talk about Wednesdays being uniform day? You wear your uniform down there, and then do you come back to school in uniform, or do you change?
Yes, sir. I wear it all day.
Okay.
All day long. PT, we have our own uniforms. I forgot to mention that. PT, we have our own naval uniforms, the navy blue and the yellow, of course, and then we have our sweats when it's cold. And then Friday, we also wear a business casual, which is khakis and a polo.
So I'll just ask you to say it publicly. Would you recommend this program to other students?
Definitely, no doubt about it. You don't have to want to go into the military. As I said, it builds character, builds confidence, and just all around a great experience. As I said, it helps out. You go and you can do community service, get to meet new people, get to help people, and it's really fun.
Well, Todd, there's a lot of pressure on you as our
Yeah.
cadet. We would love it if you finished out and graduated out of that program, and went on to whatever path you went to. Probably the military. It sounds like.
Yes, sir.
And I could just speak and say, I did not put him up to saying that was the greatest experience he's had, but I'm glad you did. And we hope that continues for you. Any other questions for Todd?
I don't know if it's a question, more maybe a comment. So I've had family members join the military, friends go through different branches of the military. I myself, not nearly brave enough to do it. So for you to choose that path is what you're heading, and we've been able to provide an opportunity for you to get some maybe on-the-job training, so to say, to prepare you for that. I think it's really great. Best of luck to you as you continue your journey.
Thank you.
I assume you can swim.
I can. My grandma forced me to go into swimming lessons when I was little.
All right. Well, Todd, we hope to get you some fellow cadets with scheduling coming up at the high school. And thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to come over here and talk about my experiences. I hope this really hopefully this pushes out to more people so more people know about it. Because I will be honest, I didn't learn about JRTC until last minute last year.
Well, that's because we got it up and running last year, so it wasn't on you, my friend.
I would say put the word out about JRTC even more. Me walking around with this uniform on really helps out with people knowing that it's a thing and learning that it's there if you want to join,
Well, I appreciate your courage. It's tough to be a ship of one, but we greatly appreciate you coming tonight and for what the courage you have in trying something new. So,
Of course.
thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to join.
All right, the next portion of our committee of the whole is going to be around the board committee restructuring. So we're just going to open it up for discussion on the current structure of our committees and the possibility to explore whether there are opportunities to consolidate, eliminate, or introduce new committees, such as the proposed subcommittee of the Budget and Finance Committee. Our objective is to ensure that we're just being efficient stewards of our time and our resources. So I'll open the floor for thoughts and some feedback on what that might possibly look like.
First question, do we need chairman of every committee?
Yes.
Why?
So one of the reasons for having a chairperson of each committee is, for one, the requirements of the minutes and sharing that out, because someone has to run those meetings, and that is the board's responsibility, while we have the administration to lean on for information purposes. These committees are structured around the board.
But most committees, like facilities, Curtis sets the agenda. Safety, I think Mr. Long sets the agenda. They set the agenda for the meeting. To me, more it's a report. When it comes to reporting to the board, I think the person that said, like, sir, we still go to facilities, he should be the one reading the report to us. Because other board members may have questions that we didn't ask, and they got a better idea of what's going on.
And how it's structured is that the committee chairperson, because in the past there were board members who wanted more of it to be a board-led committee to put items on the agenda. So it's a collaboration approach to the chairperson and administration putting the agenda, so the chairperson could relay that information to the administrator of that committee to make sure, because they're the ones actually setting that agenda, but it's a collaboration of what the board committee decides of what they want on the agenda. And I know I think that one of the purposes is like the athletic committee. So I don't know what the mission and vision was of all of the committees when they were initially established, if they still need to be a thing, or if that's something that quarterly, as a committee of the whole, we could receive updates, because I don't know, besides the negotiations, let's just say currently the athletic committee is in negotiations with Park and Rec. Ultimately, that could also fall on either negotiations, because we do have a negotiations team. So it's just a matter of, do we want to continue with all of the committees? Could we put some of them as a committee of the whole update, or do we need to eliminate? I guess just kind of brainstorm of what the committees would look like. I know transportation, I don't know if that necessarily needs to be a committee. A lot of that, I also believe, possibly could be a committee of the whole. I don't know that they bring a lot of recommendations to the board. So I think that just thoughts. So
I like the fact that, like, Curtis or Mr. Long, they come with an agenda. They know what needs to be done. I'm the chairman, but I don't know what needs to be done. And when coming to the board, if either one of them came with a question, or we had created a presentation and another board member had a question, they could ask it also. Do you understand what I'm saying? The chairman's, it's just a figurehead. To me, it's just a figurehead position. But the people that do the work should be the ones presenting the work to the board, in my estimation.
Well, I'll make a comment, like on transportation. I think that it probably could be absorbed under the whole committee.
Okay.
If we came up with something kind of special, we could say, hey, 2 or 3 committee members, board members, pick up and do a special look.
We do have the ability to have ad hoc committees as needed.
Yeah.
between committee of the whole updates, and a lot of school districts operate that way. A lot of committee work is done prior to the actual board meeting itself. Whether that means having the meeting, at 6 prior, in this room prior to the start of the committee of the whole. Maybe that makes sense, Fred.
I agree with the consultant, like transportation. I've been on it all this time. I think by the time I get to the meeting, it's already been taken care of by the administration. Normally, it's done. So, they're telling me what has happened. That's one of the. I believe transportation should be put under something, or like you said, done there. I don't think policy. I don't like policy.
How long does policy actually run?
Policy should be winding down.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
Yeah,
how
so,
long is it
that's another one to go.
offline?
so, for example, Mrs. DeLong and I were talking about policy. Once all of our policies are updated, from then it would just be a matter of periodically looking at the updates recommended through board docs, and then at a committee of the whole, or if there's a lot of meaty work to do on a particularly interesting or froggy committee, then or policy, then that committee can meet. So that was one that we definitely talked about, kind of like sunsetting a little bit.
How many more policies are there to get through before we've got reached?
So we only have like 4 or 5, I think, on our list. We're almost there.
So what about athletics? Levi?
Yeah. What about
Would
athletics?
Athletics fall under that type of a scenario?
I mean, I don't know how long, this is the maybe elephant in the room, but like the negotiations with Park and Rec, at least the last time, the one time I've been a part of it, was kind of long and lengthy. Like 4 or 5 different times both sides came together over the course of like 4 or 5, 6 months. Like felt like once a month, like back and forth on things and hashing things out, and then you get your agreement and then get sent off to solicitors and everything to review. Outside of that, most of the stuff with athletics is just basically an update from the administrator in that says, like, this is how many kids played, this is how the season went, as it's winding down, this is when sign-ups are for stuff. So then, like, I come and I'll start reminding everyone at the end of meetings, like, hey, go sign up for spring sports because that's coming up, I think, actually in the next couple weeks. But most of that stuff is
it mostly just informational?
It's basically informational things. I mean, there's been a couple of things like the physicals, like we waived the $10 fee, I believe. That came from that, which kind of came from a brainstorm idea just from, I think, Dr. Lyman saying, hey, it'd be great if we could waive that $10 that we were charging kids to get a sports physical. So I don't know if that...
Most of that could be handled in committee of the whole.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about bringing that up like tonight, I necessarily don't think about something like that, but if you have that thought process, you could definitely speak up and bring that up.
Another thing, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don. Go ahead, next.
So, and since a couple days ago, board leadership sort of indicated that we were going to have this meeting and talk about boards a little bit. I, sort of thought about committees. I thought about why we have these committees, and it seems, I don't know that this is universally true, but it seems to me that like the committees have come about as a consequence of things that board members really care a lot about, right? And often they come from a place of not being confident that administration is handling something, I don't know, appropriately or the way that board members would have them. And so committees are sort of a way to kind of, I don't know, just get a little bit closer into the guts of things and kind of monitor stuff. And I don't know that that's a bad thing, but it's, I don't know, we're talking about athletics and transportation, and those committees have been sort of more important to certain people at certain times. and I think it reflects, kind of periodic controversies that have arisen or the specific interests of different individuals. And, there's been some conversation recently about, a new committee. And I think that, again, sort of reflects like the specific interests of, I don't know, some board members to kind of, get into the weeds on things. And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm just saying like that's sort of my observation. So, but as thinking about what committees do that's really helpful, in my mind, it's helpful when you're doing work where you're like sort of parsing through like a ton of information that's kind of just like too much for the whole board to absorb, right? So I think the policy committee for a long time has done that, right? I mean, I don't know, it's tedious going through all that stuff, but I don't know, we make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that's not just metaphorical. We go through language, right, and make sure that the language of the policy is saying what we want it to say, and we don't want to. All 9 of us don't want to be involved in that. It's just super tedious, right? And then contract negotiations is another example. So in the past, I haven't been around forever, but in the past we tried to do that as a whole board. And it was just 9 people showing up to all those meetings. And so it was just way too much. It was too tedious, right? So it made sense to sort of, outsource that to a smaller group. So I guess in my mind, one of the ways to think about this is to try to think about what would you do if you were creating this system from scratch, right? Not thinking about legacy systems, right? Do we need this committee or do we not need this committee? You just think about it from scratch, and you think okay, so what sort of work is the board being asked to do that it might be helpful if that was reviewed by a subset, previous to coming to the full board? Because committees can't make, well, at least in my mind, shouldn't be making decisions and directing administration to take action. They should be making recommendations to the full board for the full board to be recommending to administration to take action, right? So they're sort of parsing out information. So, I don't know. In that light, I guess I don't know. I don't have any answers there. I would just challenge us all to think about what are the hard things that we do that is tedious, that it makes sense to have a small group of people kind of get into the weeds and simplify the message, if you will, for the whole board.
That's kind of what I have been advocating for, is a subcommittee of budget and finance, to dig in and look at efficiencies, look at future planning for maybe school growth, things like that. I call it kind of an efficiency look as a subcommittee. And it does get into the weeds. It does look at data, but it makes no, all it would do is make recommendations and try to come to better understanding of some of the finances, maybe come up with different ideas of just different way of looking at things. I'm not saying that administration doesn't look at those things, but I think in the past I've found those deep dives to be quite helpful.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I'm not. I guess I'm opposed to that idea, but just on a very mild level. It's not a hard opposition. I'm not going to be upset if we decide that we want to go that direction. It's fine. Just my only hesitancy is just that I feel like finance is one of the. That's probably the most important thing that the board does, is oversee finances, and I feel like everybody sort of needs to be engaged in that thing, and so I absolutely, we need those deep dives, right? That's our charge, right, from the public, is to monitor, finances. I don't know, and maybe it would work out fine. So I don't know what I don't know, because I haven't seen that system. But I'm just a little bit nervous about like a subset of people having a whole ton of information and then the whole board not really having like kind of the complete picture. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe it would really be helpful to have a few people really dive in and to be able to, you know, sort of bring the kind of big picture to the whole board.
I think that is kind of the goal, is to try to bring the big picture to the board. How many times have I walked outside the building and somebody walk up to me and say, "Can we pay for that? I didn't understand that," or, you know, "Where'd that money come from?" It just gives us. I really believe that subcommittee would do well. You know, if somebody sees that there's a problem with it, speak up, and then we adjust.
I believe anytime you question something, you learn from it.
You learn a lot.
If you don't question it, you never learn. You never know pros and cons.
Well, if we save 1%, if we can find anything. I mean, I've had people tell me that, we run real lean, we're real tight, we're perfect, you know, can't get any better. Well, if we save 1% of our budget, you know, $680,000, how much bonding will that repay? You know, if we have elementary schools coming our way and things we need to do there, maybe we find something, maybe we don't. You know, planning for the future. It can go a whole lot of different directions, but its intent is very good. But taxpayers deserve a good hard look. And budgeting is what we do. I mean, that is what we are tasked with. And you know, that's how I look at it. So that is one committee I'd like to see, and I don't think it would last forever. You know?
I would like I said, the main thing, besides what you're saying, I like the head of the departments come to the board and give their presentation about what the committee had, committee what we had. They come forth, and then we can question them. What was said? Well, why was that said? We can come back to the committee and say, we read through this in committee, but the rest of the board doesn't get a chance to ask those questions because they don't know everything that was said. But Ms. DeLong come here for safety. She can tell us what's said, and she can give us a base. Kirk comes here for facilities. He can do that. That's what I want. I want the heads of the departments that runs those committees, that are involved in those committees, to come before us and tell us and the community what was said and what was done. Right now, one of us gets up here as chairman, we blah, 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 what occurred. I'm uncomfortable with that, and I don't do that. But I think they have the basis and everything to present that. So I'd like them to come to committees with transportation, or let's say safety has a committee. She would come and she presented at the board meeting, and then we could ask her questions. Facilities have a meeting, then Kirk could come and we can ask him questions.
Well, Fred, if I understood you correctly, I think what you're advocating for is, we already have like an administrative person that's sort of assigned to each committee. You would just prefer that person do the reporting during the board meeting rather than
because you
board
may not be there and something's said.
Yeah.
You may have a question to ask them rather than ask the chairman of the committee. They're going to have more information than I would if I was chairman. And it's not every time. We only have them every quarter or every something like that. So they only have to be here when committees haven't been discussed. That's the only time they have to show up. I don't think that's an over asking. But then I don't think they'll object to that. I see Ms. DeLong constantly chasing her head.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any objections to that proposal. I don't know. Sometimes our committee reports are a little anemic.
Amen.
And that's probably an artifact of what you're talking about, is just board members don't really understand, understand the issue as deeply as the administrative person who's in charge of that area.
Aaron?
Yeah. I guess what I'd want to come out of this would just be a more simplified structure. Kind of talked about the athletics, transportation. They don't meet too frequently, and a lot of times it's just a lot of updates. I feel like, especially athletics, like it would be nice to get those updates presented to the whole board. Kind of gets it out in the public discussion more so. But on a base level, if I'm trying to narrow down what's most important to me or what I think should be important to a board, it would be like the people and, like our students, our employees here, the teachers and staff, the facilities, our structures, like they need to be taken care of. And obviously the financial end of things. I think those 4 topics cover everything that a board should be concerned with and wanting to help any way they can. And I think the other current committees that we have in some shape or form could be absorbed into one of those 4 categories. In my opinion, that breaks it down to where, an individual board member could be dedicated to one of those categories. It's less meetings for us, which, we're volunteers. I don't mind volunteering my time, but I would also want it to be spent, efficiently. It would be nice to have, one solid thing that you're responsible for, and you could solely focus on that area. When it comes to like what Nathan was talking about with the budget and finance, having some board members maybe getting some more information than others when they're in that committee, my goal with that committee would be to present that information to the whole board like an update. Basically, that committee's doing the deep dive, and then we come back with the results that we find and see what the whole board thinks would be appropriate from what our findings are.
So question on the structuring of the subcommittee of the Budget and Finance Committee. So like, what is the mission and vision? Like, what does that look like? Like meeting times, what you'd be looking into, who would be responsible for providing that information that's different from the full committee of the board.
Do you want me to take it, or Kirk, you want to?
Go ahead and look into it if you want.
I think, how many, we have 6 budget and finance meetings scheduled?
Yeah, one each month until, June.
So, I mean, I would say as a start, it would be meeting more frequently than that. I would look at a year-long process, in my opinion, and ideally, you'd like to try to categorize things into sections and kind of dig into each one of those sections and see if we're overspending here or if there's a double dip here or something. Like just trying to figure out if we can come up with, like what Kirk was saying, if we come up with like 1% savings, that's it's a nice chunk of money that, we can decide what we want to do with that.
I think the other thing is it's kind of a hard committee to decide. I think first couple of meetings would be chit chat about which directions to go, and then try to define them a little bit better, and try to come up with a logical path. There's so many angles you can look at as far as like future planning. You can look at different areas within the school district. And to be honest with you, unless, as I would gather information, I would look at putting that information into a format where if I saw something that stuck out, like a sore thumb, like something that over the past 5-6 years has increased dramatically, maybe we come back to the board and say, why was this? And try to dig into something a little bit deeper. But just look at it from high view for a while and see what you can come up with. When you start looking at data, you're not sure what you're going to get.
And this committee would be open to the public?
It is open to the public, but as you heard Nathan say, and there will be public invited. Potentially, there will be people that with benefit to this.
I think I mean, like, would it be run like a typical committee would be, where it's advertised and community members could attend?
Well, I think that I was trying to stay away from that somewhat, but the only thing I want to try to avoid is whenever you get too many people. You heard Nathan say, you get 9 people, you can't get anything done. Public can come sit and listen, but some of the public's going to be invited to participate and volunteer if they want to help. And they may be an accountant, maybe a banker, maybe Franklin County, like Mike Ross. If he has information, invite different people to gain different ideas, different thoughts, ask questions. We had Carl Burke came to a facilities meeting, I think that was a month and a half ago, gave us his viewpoint on growth, what he thought we needed to do. And it's until we take a look and kind of define what it is, it's going to be a little bit loose, and then it'll tighten itself up and look in certain areas. But it'll be looking forward to planning for maybe elementaries or having ideas to bring back to the board. A volunteer group of people that just want to take a look.
This is not for educational side. This is not all non-educational side, correct?
Well, it's
I mean, classes like teaching and that kind of stuff. No, we're not getting into that.
No, we're not doing anything. It's just, all it is just budgets.
Other things around us that make up.
I know you just said it's not educational side, but I would just also caution, like, typically the majority of our budget is the people who are employed by the district, which is the educators and staff. So I would just, like, are you saying it's directly education? Like, no, but it very well may possibly, depending on which way it goes, impact the budget via education. If, like, whatever, I don't know what it would be if.
Well, the committee doesn't, this subcommittee has no power to do anything.
Right.
It just brings information to the board.
Well, I guess, just to maybe recap, it sounds like possibly transportation, negotiations, outreach, and possibly policy could be an ad hoc or just be a presentation to the committee of the whole. Is that?
It's okay with me. I'm chairman of transportation, so wipe that off the table.
Are you saying all of those to be ad hoc? I just want to be clear on what you're suggesting.
I would say that the heavy lift of policy, I know over COVID, the policies were kind of just stacking up and we're getting close to the end. So I think it would be kind of, there was just some things in policy that I believe Leslie could handle to change that verbiage, that if it came to the first read and the second read, that we would be able to, it's not like we're getting like 12 to 15 policies that we're, sending through.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom, so I believe that policy could be ad hoc. Transportation, That's also a lot of informational until we start getting up into negotiations with our carriers.
You gonna make you,
Negotiations has always just kind of been ad hoc. We don't regularly schedule those. And outreach is also kind of ad hoc, working with the foundation. Athletics is mostly informational. They meet 4 times a year, which is also informational.
So just to be clear, when you say ad hoc, do you mean meet as needed?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a PRN status.
All right, so that's the confusion, because when I hear ad hoc, I mean it has a definite end, like it starts to do a task and then it ends. But you're suggesting a sort of meet as needed kind of thing, which
So do we
That's
keep
great.
the same people on the committees that
Yeah.
currently, and then just call them together whenever needed?
I would say that way, everyone kind of, that's their wheelhouse. That's what they've chosen. Every member that is on a committee is on that because they chose to be on it for whatever reason. So I would say yes. I would also maybe facilities and safety and security also kind of intertwine. A lot of our facilities, it ends up in some sort of safety and security upgrade. So safety and security also tie into facilities, so those two could maybe be combined.
safety and facilities?
well, I like that.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm
Simplify.
fine with that.
Yeah.
And in order to do this, so we'll have to get some verbiage together because we would have to change policy because policy a lot states which committees we have. So we would have to
Call the co.
call the policy committee.
We already have a meeting scheduled, so
To kind of get that verbiage aligned with the desire of the board. So, and then I guess the next would be the, whether if it's to put it on the next agenda for a vote to include, would we need a vote, do you think, regarding the subcommittee of the budget and finance?
We probably need official action to create that committee. I mean,
Well, we
if
would
it's-
probably need official action to dissolve as well,
Right.
so.
Let me make some calls to figure out the process so that we're good.
Another committee, like I know we're possibly contemplating dissolving some of our committees and combining, looking at other districts, they have curriculum committees, which are designated to assist with, the special education, and curriculum. Is there a desire to explore adding a curriculum committee? I know we
Yes.
do have a, signed off on it one year. It was with special education, like their plan. Mr. Eastman, what is that plan called? That the board members is a
Special
part of?
education, I mean, we're just about to approve a bunch of plans to submit to the state.
there's a special education plan.
Oh, so that is the name of it. Okay.
How many of us on the board? How many of us on this board are qualified to understand it? I mean, special education is a special field. It takes a lot of understanding of that.
Well, I think that that's one of the beauties, even that I've saw in negotiations. I don't know that many of us are even qualified, except for Dr. Goetz and some others that live through that. But when you sit down at the table just to discuss and kind of bounce ideas back and forth, you come out with some great solutions or problem solving or just asking why and what if we did it this way. I don't know if it's just about being qualified, but maybe a desire to explore what is happening and knowing what some of the things that Dr. Donat shares.
I'm not against it. I just wondered. I just want to get into something that don't have.
I mean, we are in
The
the
great
business of-
and terrible thing about democracy is that we've all been elected to a position that we're not qualified for.
Yeah, this is so true. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak on that. I would love the idea of a curriculum or some kind of student services, something where we have some board members like solely focused on our students, and even if it's like an educational experience for that board member, at least they're learning something and maybe they have some fresh ideas. But even just as a public image, like it shows that we care, we care about our kids and we're willing to put time and effort into it.
But would it be helpful, maybe board leadership and administration can kind of call this out and come back with a package of, for the rest of the board to consider?
Yes, because my chickens scratch and your Post-it note. Yeah, so I think we have a good place to start. Is there any additional questions, comments, statements?
Well, with Fred saying about the committee chair, what do we want to do with that?
If I could just pipe in, I mean, so I think committee chairs are important because they, technically can add, anyone can add, but if chair people want to run those meetings, that's great. But I think it is important to have someone designated as the leadership, the board leadership on that committee, as someone for administrators to go to say, hey, is there anything you want to put on the agenda? Is there anything, to run, different questions by ahead of time? It's good to have one point of contact, as opposed to trying to get a hold of three people necessarily.
Yeah, I understand. My only thing is, I would like the people that are in that, like I said, safety, Mr. Long, she runs that. I'd like them to come to the meeting, with a safety meeting, and they get the presentation to us. Rather the chairman try to.
Yeah, and I think, Fred, just trying to think about the timing of these. Can we time them up to be more efficient and have less meetings for board members? I think there's definitely enough space in an evening that we can do that.
And what about Bill's recommendation, kind of a meeting prior to our regularly scheduled meetings for committee meetings? I mean, that would be something I would be interested in looking at. It would save an extra evening out of the week where we can just kind of combine them. And
Yeah, I mean, the idea is like if we just make our committee meetings, schedule them out to be at 6 o'clock on Mondays, we potentially could have a couple going at the same time, and then, we could report out either that evening or, if they run a little bit longer, we can cut into committee the whole time. It's maybe more efficient for board members.
The other side of that, and I'm not saying in opposition, but just the other side of that is sometimes, a committee meeting is doing work that it doesn't know how long it's going to take, right? And if you do it before the meeting, there's a hard end. There's a positive to that too, right? But I don't know, and with some of these, I mean, if we're saying that a lot of these committees are really just, we're not going to have regular scheduled meetings, we're just going to call meetings when needed. I think there's no telling how long that meeting might be because we don't know what the work would be for that meeting.
Agreed. Yeah, but I was thinking maybe for the hardwired ones, like a facilities committee could meet at 6, and if it runs into the committee of the whole, that's okay, in my opinion, because we're already here. But as as needed committee, maybe we do schedule those out and get it to the newspaper if we have decisions to make or recommendations.
Okay, so just so I've got this in my head, so I guess I'm, so facilities committee would be one of those. I'm not sure where we were with athletics, if we decided that we still needed that or if that was gonna disappear, but
That was more just informational, maybe committee of the whole material.
okay, so I think I'm hearing just two, right? So at facilities and then perhaps this new finance subcommittee as sort of regular meters. Is that
Facility/safety,
yeah? Okay.
facilities, safety,
budget, and finance.
and we discussed potentially curriculum or like a student type of committee.
I mean, I don't know what curriculum would look like yet because we haven't had one. So,
So in the interest of time and a quick executive session.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have enough, I think, to move forward and bring something a little more.
One last thing on the facilities. A lot of our facilities meeting will go fairly quick, but we do bleed over quite often I'd call it small talk, just about different stuff. I'd hate to kind of lose that because sometimes that's some of the best information you get.
Yeah.
Or if the facilities come in, that's just, but if you want to do it beforehand, I can do, that's okay.
I mean, I'll work with the committee. We'll come back with.
If there's something special, you can call a board meeting anytime you want, can't you?
We can't. We have to advertise.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then,
so-
then we just, that's,
Enough notice. So.
All right, everyone. I appreciate the great conversation and dialogue. We are now going to convene into executive session.
If anyone in the audience is planning on speaking at the public comment, if you could fill out a card in the back, that would be great. What's that? Yeah, we'll collect them. Basic. Yeah, we're doing it now. Yep. anybody has any cards, if you could give it to Mr. Barwin, it'd be great.
No cards.
All right, so calling the Planning and Action meeting of the Shippensburg Area School District meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jim Bard, Mr. Mike Carey, Mr. Levi Kressler,
Here.
Mr. Darren Donovan,
Here.
Mrs. Steph Eberly,
Here.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Here.
Dr. Michael Lyman, Mr. Kirk Noggle,
Here.
Mr. Fred Scott.
Here.
So before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I do just want to let the community know that the board did meet in executive session prior to the start of this meeting regarding legal matters. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of this school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. This meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. May we now have a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students in the Shippensburg Area School District. And may we also have a moment of silence to remember Karen Stambaugh, special education teacher at the Shippensburg Area Middle School, Frank Kirch, social studies geography teacher and softball coach at the Shippensburg Area Senior High School, William Porter, 1944 graduate of the Shippensburg Area High School and United States Navy veteran serving during World War II, James Keating, 1951, Shippensburg Area Senior High School and United States veteran serving during the Korean War, Glenn Varner, 1954, graduate of the Shippensburg Area Senior High School, Faye Hensel, 1957, graduate of Shippensburg Area Senior High School, and worked as an elementary teacher within the Shippensburg Area School District, Lee Breckbeal, 1961, graduate of the Shippensburg Area Senior High School and a United States Navy veteran serving during the Vietnam War, Walter Summers, 1962, of the Shippensburg Area High School and United States Air Force veteran serving during the Vietnam War. Kenneth Hancock, 1974, graduate of the Shippensburg Area Senior High School. Jack Watson, graduate of the Shippensburg Area High School and served in the United States Air Force. And Marlon Macbeth, graduate of the Shippensburg Area High School and served in the United States Army. Mr. August, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, previous item 6E has been moved to item 5I on action.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda as listed?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Scott, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Citizens' comments? You said there was none?
None.
All right. Moving on to our student representatives. Mr. Blount.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of busy stuff going on in the high school since break. We'll start with sports. Girls basketball is making a comeback on the season. They started out 1-6 and are currently 5-7 heading into tomorrow night's game against East Pennsboro. They're sitting just outside the playoff bubble, but are working hard to make it into the playoffs. Boys basketball is a little rough, but they are working very hard. I know they just implemented some new youth programs, so hopefully to develop some young athletes. Boys wrestling team is 2-5. The girls wrestling team is 1-3, and I'm pretty sure this is their first year with a team, which is great. The boys swim team is very young and improving with each meet. The girls swim team is doing very well. The 4x100 relay and the 200 medley relay won first place at the Bulldog Splash. Congratulations, ladies. Oh, and the swim team asked me to relay this information that their swimming time equipment is a little old and it will need to be replaced soon, apparently. In other news, winter break seemed to be a hit in the never-ending winter wonderland conditions. The Art Honor Society has been collaborating with artist Katie Trainer to produce a 12-panel mural for the Blue Mountain Plaza on the PA Turnpike. This was just recently completed and was unveiled Wednesday, January 8th. The Sharps musical group accompanied and performed at the unveiling. Congrats to all those that participated, and make sure to stop by and see the amazing artwork. The winter dance is scheduled for February 15th from 7 to 10 in the Sashes Gymnasium. Tickets are $5 each and will be sold during lunches, February 10th through 13th. Switching gears to the middle school, Sam's Student Council hosted a door decorating contest with the theme of I Spy Winter. The winners in each grade will participate in a breakout room type activity with prizes of cookies and candy canes. Noah the service dog just joined Sam's and has been a great addition to the school. Students who earned the opportunities through the fundraiser attended the prizes of a party and a trip to the movie theater. Students will be taking the winter IXL diagnostic test in January soon. That's all for me.
Thank you. We do not have a career tech report, board committee reports, policy committee.
Do you want me to talk?
Mrs. DeLong.
Okay,
go
hi.
ahead.
Yes, so we met on December 4th, and we have, I think, about 5 policies that are on the agenda tonight for, I believe, the second read, because they were at the first read at the last meeting. And then we're going to meet again coming up here in February with some work on a potential AI policy for the school district. Do you want me to keep going to transportation?
Sure.
Okay, so then, well, skip, sorry, it's facilities first.
I wanted Fred.
I wasn't there.
I'm just kidding.
Facilities, did you all change the chair?
Oh, we didn't get a chance.
Only two of us there.
I'm happy to report on what happened at the facilities committee meeting.
Have at it.
So just a few issues on the agenda. One, there's the fire alarm system at Nancy Grayson's been has some problems and needs replacing, and so there's presently an effort to get bids on replacing a part of that system. Another thing we talked about is with our athletic stadium being sort of at the place that it is now. We the Greyhound Foundation is engaged in some fundraising, but it needs to sort of, be given direction on how to sort of organize and prioritize the issues that are most important. So there was some discussion about that. And then finally, an issue that, I guess 2 issues that will come up in this meeting. One is there's, I guess, a bond that the borough requires to hold some money while we do some work on some water stuff that we get back, and so the board needs that's on the agenda today for approval. And then there was a change order about some injector pump situation that there seems to have been a creative solution for that isn't going to end up costing us more money, but it's still a bit of a change from what was originally proposed. So there you go.
Thank you. Curriculum report, Dr. Jeanette.
So tonight we're going to be talking about PVOS data, and I wanted to remind you that the PVOS data is looking at growth data, so the difference between growth and achievement. Growth data or achievement is one snapshot, one moment in time, and the growth data is achievement over time. Making sure. Hooray! We're on the second slide. So we're going to be looking at the growth data, which is data over or growth over time. And what we're looking at is, have students learned enough to maintain their achievement level, their existing achievement level? And the data that we're going to be talking about tonight is data from the past academic year, so from spring 2023. Next slide. So what the colors mean: dark blue is that the district exceeded the state's growth standard of how much students would learn in a year. Light blue is that students moderately exceeded that growth standard. And green is that they met that growth standard. And red and yellow are obviously that they were falling behind. We want everyone to be at a green, blue, or dark blue level. Next slide. So one way to think about this is to use an analogy of a baseball diamond. So the bases are the achievement levels, and the inning would be an academic year. So for example, if students started on second base, they would be at the middle achievement level. They might start on first base. They might start at a higher achievement level. They might start on third base. What we want to see is during an academic year, during their inning, that they're all moving around that baseball diamond and getting closer to scoring a run. Next slide, please. So with a green, if they have a green on their PVOS data, that means they started the year and that their assessment data shows that they learned during that academic year what we expect them to learn, and that they've maintained their achievement standing. So if they were a moderate achievement level at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, they're still a moderate achievement level, but they were able to accomplish all that the state says that they should do during that academic year. Next slide. If they're a blue, they started the academic year at one achievement level, and then they made enough progress that they actually started moving toward a next achievement level. They learned more than what the state was expecting during that school year. So that's when we're going to see blue or dark blue. Dark blue would mean they maybe even moved 2 bases ahead. Next slide. If we're seeing yellow, that means they didn't accomplish what we anticipated that they would learn during an academic year. They started to fall behind from their peers. And if we see red, it means that they were probably running the wrong direction. They were falling back, and they were moving from like second base back to first base. Next slide.
I don't think that's actually allowed in baseball.
Well, you gotta be not a sports person. I'm just trying to go for an analogy that helps people understand this data. A student might start the year at a lower achievement level, but move off first base. So even though they're below what we would expect achievement-wise, they're still growing. Therefore, they would still score a blue on PVOS data because they're moving forward from their existing achievement levels. Go ahead. So what did we see with our data? So last year, the academic year 23-24, this is looking at our PSSA data from math, and we're seeing that 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th, we were seeing growth that was above what the state expected, and in some cases, well above what the state expected. We do have concerns with what happened in our 6th grade that we will have to look at, because those students fell behind what the average is for the state. Next slide. When we look at the scatter plot, this I know you guys like to see, because this is one that we're looking at the other districts within our IU. So what we want to see on these scatter plots is we want to be in the top right quadrant. So the purple line is the average state level of achievement, and then the horizontal line is the average growth that the state wants to see. So we want to be in that top right quadrant, and our dot, the Shippensburg School District dot, across the grades is the, I don't know, is that orange, red, yellow? It's something like that. So we are in good shape that way, that we actually are, we're growing our kids and we're above the state average. Questions on this?
I have a question.
Sure.
What's Shippensburg average? I know the state gives you everything against the state. What? So we have 100%, 100 people in Shippensburg. We expect 100 people to be at the top. Where are we at? I mean, because I keep hearing state average. This is Shippensburg. I want to know what Shippensburg is doing.
Okay. Let me think how to best address that with the data that I have for you tonight. What I can tell you is that we look at our data relative to the districts around us in our IU, which is what you're seeing there, and we look at our data relative to the state average. So when you say, what is Shippensburg, I can give you information of like how they did, but it's going to be without context because it's not showing it relative to anything else.
Fred, each grade level 3 through 8 is going to have scores for math and science, so they're kind of like all over the, in terms of like what percentage got achievement. So there's really two lenses to look at. One is the straight up how many students met the benchmark, so that's the percentage you may be talking about. And then there's what Mrs. Donat is talking, or Dr. Donat is talking about, which is how did we grow those students? So each student that takes a test is predicted. There's a prediction of how well they should do on the next test that they take, okay? And so when we're in the blue, that means that they scored better than they were predicted to score, which is fantastic. That means our system is growing kids more than they should be expected. Now, the downside sometimes is not all of those kids are on a base. They're between bases. So we look at the percentage of proficient and advanced, but we also look at how much are we growing kids. And when we're blue, that means we are killing it with moving kids more than they should have based on being on our system. Okay? So I think you gave a presentation last time on the percentages. But so when you say that, like there's all kinds of answers to that question because our kids take all kinds of tests.
And I understand, and I guess I understand the tests, and I understand this is a state. You're going by the state pool.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, maybe I just don't understand. If we got students in Shippensburg, are their grades higher or lower than what we would expect at Shippensburg? I don't care about Mechanicsburg, James Buchanan. Are the students learning higher or lower in Shippensburg, per Shippensburg students? And I don't care about the rest of the state.
So when we look at that, there's different ways we can look at student learning. We could look at their grades in a class. We could look at the state assessment data, like the PSSAs, and that would show us how many are meeting proficiency or above proficiency. The presentation tonight is looking at how we're growing our students beyond what the expectation was, what they were predicted to do based off of their scores the prior year. So I can come back another time and work with you and try to get you the data that you're looking for.
Yes, would you please? I don't know if I'm
let's talk about that afterwards.
Because the superintendent said a month ago, or the state has to put criteria about students graduating, correct? That we can't fail students. Is that correct? Or we don't fail? Do we fail students? I guess the question. Do students fail?
So there are students who do not pass classes, Fred. That's towards graduation and earning credits, or depending where they are in the elementary schools, we may have to make a determination: are they ready to move on to the next grade?
Yes.
So that's one thing. Then there's this standardized testing, which there are some state graduation requirements around that students be able to perform, and be proficient on Keystone tests at the high school level in order to graduate, or have another path that they've defined that allows them to graduate. So it's a pretty complex question, but to answer your question, there are some students who do fail.
Okay. But we don't have everybody must pass. We don't have that. See, that's what my understanding was. No matter what, the students pass.
So at the lower elementary levels, Fred,
yeah.
I mean, in middle school, like you have to make a determination. Will it be more beneficial for the student to be retained, or have they demonstrated enough that they should be moved on to the next grade level? At the high school, that is completely credit based. So that means obviously every class that you take earns you one or a half credit towards graduation. Once you've hit that number of 28, you're eligible to graduate. if you don't pass enough classes, you don't graduate. There are some things within IEPs that support students and they can graduate on their IEP goals. When we say, does every kid pass? Not necessarily, Fred. We do have, unfortunately, some dropouts every year.
All right. Oh, I understand the dropouts. Now, I'm sorry. I
appreciate the question.
It's just a rumor that I've been approached about every kid's pass no matter what. And so that's what I was trying to address. That's not true. So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Next slide, Leslie. So with English, when we're looking at English language arts across our grades, we're seeing that we have in 4th and in 6th grade, we're growing them well beyond what was anticipated or predicted, and that we are above in grade 8, and we're meeting the growth in grade 7. And in grade 5, we have some concerns. We have to dig in a little bit for that. So when I say dig in, what we need to do is we need to look at the areas that are in that dark blue. What are they doing that's so good? Is it the teachers? Is it the way in which they're delivering the instruction? Is it our curriculum? What is it that those teachers are doing really well? Because we have lots of evidence saying our teachers are doing really good things with our students. And then how do we replicate those really good things in the grades that might be struggling? What's happening that causes that discrepancy between those grades? So go ahead to the next slide. So again, we're seeing on this scatter plot that we are still in the upper right-hand quarter, barely, but we're still above the state line for achievement, and we're still to the right of the state average for growth. Questions on this? Next slide, please. So for science, in 4th grade, we are growing them well beyond what was predicted. And in 8th grade, we're meeting that level of growth. But again, we see that there's a little bit of a fall, and we want to find out what happened there in those grades between 4th and 8th. With the scatter plot, you can see that we grew them significantly more than other districts in our IU, and we're just a little bit above the state average. Next. With our, I'm sorry, I must have grabbed the wrong one there. Can you skip to the next one? That's an ELA one. With our keystones, you can see on our keystones for algebra, our teachers are doing a phenomenal job growing students, and in biology and literature, we're above expectations for their growth. Next one. And this is the scatter plot again for where you can see our district is doing compared to other districts in our IU. And that's for algebra. The next one, Leslie, is for literature, still in that upper right-hand quadrant where we want to be. And the next one is for biology, still in that upper right-hand quadrant. So what we really want to see, go ahead for the next one, the variables that are within our control, things that we can do to adjust and change and improve student success. We can adjust our curriculum, we can adjust our instruction, we can adjust assessment to a degree of how we're asking students to demonstrate their growth. And we can also adjust the ways in which the district is organized. So how we group students or how we group grades, those are things within our control. Now, our next steps are those areas that I said we had some concerns on. We're going to look at where the bright spots are, and we're going to dig in with those departments and say, how can we replicate what is going really well and bring up the areas that are less, might be a little less in terms of their achievements and their growth, and help them get to those same levels that the other areas are performing at. Questions?
So does 5th grade have the coaches as well, like some of the other, are the coaches per the building or is it per the grade?
Right now we have one math instructional coach, and that one math instructional coach is shared between grades K through 5, all buildings. We did have instructional coaches in the middle school. Those positions the board decided to not renew for the current year.
Based on administrative recommendation, I don't want to throw the board under the bus on that.
Yeah. Other questions? So basically, in conclusion, our data is reflecting that students are performing above expected growth, which is great news. We do have some areas of concern. We have plans to meet with those areas to, again, find out what we can adjust and tweak to better support students. And other data that we collect and will be looking at is our iReady data, our Acadience data, IXL data, and as well as the classroom indicators of like tests and projects and all that good stuff.
And I just would put a exclamation point on this. To be in the upper right-hand quadrant of all but I think one of those is an amazing feat, is a credit to our teachers, the hard work that they do, our administrators do, and what our students are doing in the classroom every day. To get the growth means our system is doing what it's intended to do better than many other of our neighboring districts. So kudos to our entire faculty, staff, students for doing better than you should have if we had not been the ones educating you. So kudos.
Yes, sir.
How many districts were accounted for now? I didn't think to count them.
So if we go to one of those scatter plots, Leslie, we can quick count the dots of what's in the IU. But I can also pull the data of all of the schools in the state or all of the districts in the state, if you would like to see it that way.
No, I was just kind of curious because I mean, we compare pretty well.
Yeah, and again, at any point in time on the PVOS site, it's a publicly available site, you can go in and you can look at these scatter plots as well, and you can see the names of the districts that are doing better than, worse than. You can see all the district names and the school names as well, if you're curious about it.
27 of them.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Finance report, Mr. Barwin.
Yeah, attached in there is just a comparison report for your review through December. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. And just an FYI, there is a Budget and Finance Committee meeting on the 27th. The auditors will be here presenting the 23-24 audit. And then following that, I'll give an update on fund balance, 23-24 year-end results, and then we'll do a quick update on the fiscal year, the current fiscal year revenues and expenditures, and a quick look into salaries and benefits for the 2025, 2025, or 2026 budget. That's all I have.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Just two follow-ups to Leo's presentation. Just want to say that I had the good fortune of being at the Blue Mountain Service Plaza when those murals went up. Strongly encourage the public to go in there. It's a proud moment to see all of those murals up there and have that be a part of what our students created. Also want to give a shout out to our Robo-Hounds, who Saturday night I got word that we had great success at the competition in Philadelphia. They were in the top 7 of 30 teams, and they're moving on to the PA State Conference or state competition. Our 6th grade Shark team, made up of Madden Carroll, Logan Stallman, Jacob Shank, and Carter Mowry, took home the top award for sportsmanship, and they scored 190 points in their robot game. Our 8th grade Squid team, made up of Josiah Morton, Cooper Young, Christian Kressler, Virginia Milburn, Senate Lawrence, Charlotte Lors, Addie Weiser, Parker Andelin, and Matthew Kirkpatrick, won 2nd place in the innovation project and qualified for the state tournament. So didn't have a chance to put that on this agenda, but that's just something I thought the board would want to know. On to my donation enrollment report. We have 258 students in Cyber Charter, 226 in Keola. We have 1,166 students in our elementary K through 3 level. We have 546 students in our intermediate building, 4 and 5. At the middle school, we have 850 students. And at the high school, we have 1,110 students with 20 at various placements for a grand total of 3,692 students as of January 13th.
Mr. August, can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
So just looking at that top chart on there. Like, I appreciate that and seeing like what I deem agony of cyber charter. But like, there's so many. We only have 10 elementary Keolas where there's 80 cyber charters. So I look at that and I think, like, do we have any idea if that's like new parents, kids first going to school? Because we don't have any interaction with parents until they hit the district. But like, if I don't know how feasible it is to be like, hey, like what you're doing online, we can do with us.
So the kindergarten class had a number of students who had siblings already in
Okay.
outside placements, and so a higher percentage of them have never made it or experienced our system.
Gotcha.
That contributed to that, and sometimes whole families make
Yeah.
that decision.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, donation report. I'd like to acknowledge the following donations. Middle Spring Presbyterian Church, $1,000 donation to the District Social Workers Department, an anonymous $50 donation towards food service. Miscellaneous donors who attended the high school play Sherlock donated a total of $1,000. Presbyterian Church of Shippensburg gave a $100 donation for the high school Ignite Club. Stock and Leader gave a monetary donation, an award scholarship for a student pursuing a career in education or law of $500. McInroy Schaefer People's Trust donation to support interclassic academic competitions at a value of $500. And Cleversburg United Methodist Crafters a monetary donation to help with unpaid student lunches at a value of $500. I'd also like to note that we will be receiving a donation from Amazon of garden beds that will be installed at SACE as part of a project. We're waiting for the final, donation number to make that onto the agenda. So thank you, and that concludes my report.
Superintendent, excuse me. You want to tell them about the upcoming presentations about about the concession stand that kind of next month, in the next meeting?
Sure, Mr. Scott. At our next committee of the whole, we're going to have some students present some of their work that I think has been very impressive, and I think everyone will find it impressive, of a layout of potential places that auxiliary buildings could go in at the new stadium. So look forward to that at the next committee of the whole, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, item 4A is the approval of minutes. Recommend approval of the minutes as presented and attached from the December 2nd, 2024 reorg and planning and action board meetings. 4B is the finance, and those attachments of the bills of payments and financial reports are attached. Tax report for November and December. Number 4 is the budget reports. 4C is the personnel, professional, and support, and there are a number of appointments, adjustments, resignations, transfers, substitutes, and mentors. Is there a motion to approve items 4A through 4C?
So moved.
Second.
Made by Mr. Donovan,
Second.
second by Mr. Scott. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action agenda, item 5A, the donation of the Boyo Transportation 2009 GMC van. Boyo Transportation is requesting authorization to donate a 2009 GMC van to the district transportation. The estimated value of the vehicle is $5,000. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
Red Scott make a motion to approve.
Mr. Scott makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5B is the CAIU ELD/ESL agreement for the 25-26 school year. Administration recommends contracting with the Capital Area Intermediate Unit to provide a certified ESL teacher 2 days per week during the remainder of the 24-25 academic year and through the 25-26 academic year at a cost of $800 per day plus a 7.5% administration fee. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Goetz, second.
Fred Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5C is the Shippensburg University Research Project MOU. Administration recommends approval of the attached MOU between Shippensburg University and Shippensburg Area School District for the university to conduct a research study using de-identified aggregate data of district students. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Goetz, second.
Red Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5D is the Ames janitorial services for the 24-25. Administration recommends entering into a one-year agreement with Ames janitorial services for substitute janitorial services as needed. There's no charge to the district if we don't use their services. However, it will cost the district $30 per hour per person if we do. Is there a motion to approve item 5D?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Red Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion.
Superintendent, did we use them a lot last year or this year?
We did. You may remember, Scott, at one point we had 5 of 6 of our lead custodians out. So to fill the gap and try to keep the buildings in shape, we did spend a fair amount there.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5E, the PFM budget model. Administration recommends approval for the PFM budget model for $8,500. This is a one-time expense that the district can maintain the model for future years. This will be paid out of the superintendent's and business office budget. Language of the proposal was updated to reflect the one-time expense. Is there a motion to approve item 5E?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Skip over.
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Yes.
Mr. Kirk Noggle,
Nay.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Yes.
Mr. Fred Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Darren Donovan,
Yes.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Yes.
Five yes, one no. Motion passes.
Item 5F is the bid proposal for the safety bollards and planters. The Facilities Committee recommends reapproval to advertise for the RFPs for the bollards and planters project. The previous request for proposals had only one attendee for the pre-bid meeting, and we received no bids. The Facilities Committee will revise the bid documents prior to sending them out. There are still plans to have this completed prior to the end of the 2025 per grant requirements. The project will be paid using PCCD money from the 23-25 grant award. Is there a motion to approve item 5F?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Goetz, second.
Fred Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5G is the James Bird Replacement Project. Administration recommends approval to accept the lowest bid from Heidler Roofing of York, PA for $1,417,000 to replace the roof at James Bird Elementary. There were 10 bids submitted and the details are in the attachment. Is there a motion to approve item 5G?
Red Scott make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Noggle. Discussion.
Is this going to be done over the summer this year, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to let the public know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5H is the FSA Developers Agreement and Deed of Easement for a new water meter at the senior high. Administration recommends approval of the attached financial security agreement, developers agreement, and deed of easement between the Shippensburg Area School District and the Shippensburg Borough Authority. The purpose of this agreement and the deed of easement is to create a single metering location at the high school due to modifications. The security of $198,700 will be paid via check to the Borough Authority, and once the work is completed and inspected, the funds will be released back to the district. Is there a motion to approve item 5H?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Noggle, second.
Fred Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5I is the residency hearing. Administration recommends approval of the adjudication prepared in and action relative to the residency matter pertaining to students AB1 and AB2. This is in reference to school board residency hearing that was held on December 16th. The outcome of the hearing was that the students are not residents of the Shippensburg Area School District. Is there a motion to approve item 5I?
Fred Scott make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Noggle. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So I'm going to read through the titles of the discussion agenda. Feel free to stop for questions. If you have questions between now and the next meeting, please reach out to leadership or administration. Discussion agenda 6A is the disposal of outdated curriculum resources of the music department, K through 5. 6B is the policies for first reading, and those are 304, 702, 805, 818, 913.1, and the retired policy of 306. 6C is the Greyhound Foundation donation for the smooth sailing supplies. 6D is the Greyhound Foundation donation of the Smart Select scholarship software. 6E is the approval of the Boyo transportation drivers. 6F is the tax collector compensation for years 2026 to 2029. 6G is the mobile fingerprinting, the IDEMIA public security. 6H is the Shippensburg Athletic Field PCO number 7. Which brings us to citizens' comments regarding non-agenda items.
Can I ask a question quick about
Yes.
6G? So that's on site, so we don't have to go to just say like Franklin Learning Center or wherever to do it.
You talking about fingerprints?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people, or do we get the training of our employees? Like, I'm assuming somebody has to still do, like, I know when I've had it done 1,000 times, you go and there's always somebody that takes your fingerprints. Like, do we have to have someone do that, or is
To my
this?
knowledge,
Okay.
Mrs. Weber did not indicate that
Okay.
we had any more logistical concerns beyond.
Perfect.
service.
Makes sense. It saves people a trip somewhere
It
else.
speeds up, more importantly, it speeds up
Yeah.
the hiring process for us.
Do we have a way to make revenue off of that? To like provide that service to other people?
I hadn't given that thought, but there might be something in the contract that prohibits us from outsourcing that. I can check.
Does anyone in the audience want to comment on any of non-agenda items? None? Okay, board comments. Mr. Noggle,
I'm good.
Dr. Goetz.
Yeah, so I attended the town hall meeting on the potential change in scheduled time the other night. I guess I'd just like to thank everybody who came to the town hall meeting, and I'd like to thank our superintendent and assistant superintendent for that sort of giving and facilitating the presentation and the question answer bit. A lot of really important feedback from the community, et cetera. It's I don't know what we're going to do sort of moving forward, but it's the more I look into this, the more I sort of read about it and look at what other districts are doing, in the country, sort of where they were and where they're going. One thing stands out as pretty clear, that we are, sort of outliers for starting our secondary schools at 7:25 in the morning. I have friends all over the country, and I just sort of casually mention that and just sort of watch their eyes go wide as they reflect on how early that is. And it's interesting because we sort of take it for granted because it's kind of the way things have been. But, you know, one of the exercises that I think is useful is to just to think about, like, if you were starting this system from scratch, like, how would you do it? And I don't think that any informed person would start school at 7:25 for teenage kids. So I really want to encourage folks to, I know that there's a lot of frustrations over, like, how are we going to deal with this thing or that thing, this extracurricular or whatever. And to me, like, all of these things are really important, but they're kind of the technical difficulties. They're the artifacts that sort of follow from the system. So, the way childcare is organized, the way extracurriculars are organized, they're organized the way they are because we have a school schedule set the way it is. If we change the way the school schedule is set, these other things will also evolve and change. I'm confident that it will work out. And I don't know, like, I don't know. It's just so clear to me that we need to make a change there. I'm not sure exactly what the change should look like or what the best solution is, but I know that we need to make a change. And my understanding is that our next board meeting, this is going to be on the discussion agenda, and then potentially, or there will be a final sort of administrative recommendation, and then that'll be up for vote in a month. So I don't know. In the meantime, just want to encourage you all to kind of look into this a little bit more and provide the board with feedback. Oftentimes with these things, the folks that we hear from the most are those who are opposed, and that's great. Like, their voice is super important and matters. Well, I don't know. I guess I just want everybody, even if you feel like this is a great thing, let us know. If you feel like it's a terrible thing, let us know. We need to, sort of know where the public is on this matter. So, thank you.
Mr. Kressler.
Sure, Leo, you missed spring sports signups. That's coming up.
Oh, did I?
Month. If I had a chance to get one on you, I had to. So spring sports signups start the week of January 27th. So that's 2 weeks from tonight. I think it probably starts like baseball one day, softball the next, and so on and so forth. Spring sports start the beginning of March, so it's really not that far away. So if you're a spring athlete, get all your paperwork taken care of. And then one thing, I know, like, coming in here, like 4 or 5, 6 days a week or whatever, I like the construction out back of the school. Like, it seems like it happened so fast. Like, I started seeing like blocks go up in a matter of no time. Like, before break, they were just putting fences up and they were kind of blowing in the wind. And now if you go outside, like, there's major progress being done. So I think that's exciting. I think that's something that as a board we should remember and celebrate. Like, we were able to get something like that done, a major thing. That's needed here, and we still have more things to tackle going down the road, but that's it.
Mr. Scott.
I just want to encourage everybody that can or tune in on the next board meeting, when that meeting of the whole, I guess, when they present that presentation, because those students knocked it out the park for the concession stand and field house. It is something to see that those kids were able to do that within our school district. And so I encourage everybody just to tune in to see that presentation, what they did and how they did it. It's a real good explanation of what we want, what we need. Thank you.
Leo.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about the school start time, but I think it would be amazing if it could be pushed back a little bit. Yeah, that's all.
Mr. Donovan.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing from me tonight either. Information date savers, January 15th, we have the Athletics Committee meeting. January 23rd, the Facilities Committee meeting. And January 27th, we have the Budget and Finance Committee of the Whole and Planning and Action meeting. January 17th, we have an Act 80 day, so no school for students. And January 20th, Martin Luther King Day, the district is closed. Meeting's adjourned.